Hello, welcome to Have Roots Will Travel. My name is Lisa Elvin Steltori, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the past year, I've been examining Les Filles du Roi, the King's Daughters, taking each and every one of them and giving them their due in different episodes that I have produced. We're now on episode 126. There are over 700 Filles du Roi, and I've been examining each and every one of them. So we've come a long way, but we've got a long way to go. So with that being said, let's get started and find out who is our Fille du Roi of this episode. Before I let you go, remember to look at past episodes. Have a look at haverootswilltravel.com. I've got all the previous episodes with the links there as well. If you want to know what's coming up, subscribe to my Facebook group, Have Roots Will Travel. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on that little bell that says, I want to get notified when she posts new content, which can go anywhere from every day to 3 times a week. It just depends on how much I can get out. So with that being said, let's get started. Well, this Fille du Roi is actually mine. Marguerite Berger. She was not requested by anyone, and she was kind of on the bottom end because she didn't have a lot of descendants, but I'm claiming her because she's mine, and I wanted to examine one of my own. So let's go and find out who is Marguerite. So Marguerite was born about 1651 in Paris, France, in the parish of Saint-Sauveur. Her parents were Jean Berger and Madeleine Jeanne. So the church where she was probably baptized no longer exists, but could date its existence back to 1216. It was rebuilt in the 16th century and demolished in 1787 with the hope of rebuilding it, but a little thing like the French Revolution kind of got in the way. L'église Saint-Sauveur was found on Saint-Sauveur Street and the corner of Saint-Denis. There exists a plaque, which I posted there, that commemorates this historic church. So, and then that's just kind of an illustration on the bottom left, just to give you an idea. And I want to talk about what part of Paris she's from. She's from, and you can see on the right here, the number 2. She is part of the deuxième arrondissement, which is the second section or arrondissement, the circle. And it is located on the right bank of the River Seine. It is focused really the deuxième arrondissement is focused on business activities. There's several banking headquarters that are found here, as well as the former Paris Bourse, which is like their stock exchange, the Paris Opera, the Sentier district, which is the textile district, and it's actually home to one of the largest movie theaters in Paris as well. So it's not really a residential area now. So just to give you a bird's eye view of where she comes from. Now, why did she come to New France? So upon her father's death, she sailed for New France on La Nouvelle France, and she arrived on July 31st, 1670, and she brought with her a dowry worth about 300 pounds. So she came prepared. Who did she select, and who selected her? So her groom's name was Charles Courtois, and he was born about 1634 in the commune of Canteleu, in the region of Normandy. And inside that region, his département, the department where his town is from, Seine-Maritime. Now, his parents were Antoine Courtois and Esther Lebrun. Now, let's talk a little bit about Normandy. And obviously, the name Normandy comes from Northmen, which is Scandinavian, which is from the Vikings. And actually, for about 150 years, there was a treaty signed between King Charles III of France and the Viking president Rollo for almost 150 years following the Norman conquest of England in 1066. Normandy and England were linked by having the same person reign as both the Duke of Normandy and the King of England. I think that's just fascinating. So we've got a lot of Anglo in Normandy as well. Now, Seine-Maritime, the department of France, is part of it's obviously in the northern coast of France, and it is at the mouth of the Seine. It includes the cities of Rouen and Le Havre, also Dieppe. Until 1955, it was named Seine-Inférieure. So it has a population of about 1,000,000 and about 1,200,000. And the town where he comes from is a really small town. It's got about 13,000 people. And it focuses mostly on forest related industries and other kind of light manufacturers. It's located on the banks of the River Seine, and it's about 2 miles from Rouen. Now, you'll notice the chapel that is there. That is what's left of it in terms of the church where he would have been baptized. One of the things that Canteleu is known for, and on the bottom right, this is the town as it looks today. And the famous writer Gustave Flaubert, who wrote Madame Bovary, is from there. And so they have obviously a statue in his honor. So that's kind of a neat literary bent to it. So let's find out what makes Charles come to New France. Now remember that Charles was born about 1634, so by 1657 he's about 23 years old. I guess he just said, you know what, I want to take my chances on the New World. So he came to New France, and by 1668 he becomes a landowner. So obviously he did his apprenticeship. I wasn't able to find any other information. I'm assuming he was an engagé, where he was he signed a contract, maybe two. And kind of earned his keep. And so he was busy, kind of claiming his actual right to be in New France and being a pioneer. So let's have a look at how and when they connected. So Charles would have been in New France for about 13 years before he and Marguerite would marry, giving him a great chance of having land and having a house and having everything ready for when his time came to choose a bride. So they were married in Quebec City on October 3rd, 1670. This is their marriage contract or their marriage record. And Marguerite was given the king's gift of 50 pounds. So we know whenever we get the official recognition, if you will, we know that she is officially a king's daughter, if you will. Out of the 700, we have about 250 who actually we have a record of. So that doesn't mean the other ones are not king's daughters. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, they got the king's daughter, so check. They really are part of the team, if you will. So they settle, and Jean had settled in Lausanne, and so this is kind of where they began their lives. It had been settled back in 1636, just to give you a little bit of breakdown of Lausanne, by a man obviously named Lausanne, who was basically an absentee seigneur. His son, Jean de Lausanne, would have eventually taken over in 1651 and have it for about 10 years. And the third son, Charles de Lausanne, would take it over and have it for about 30 years. It was during his tenure that Lausanne grew and became a true place to create a home. Now, if you look at the time period, that would mean that Charles de Lausanne would have been there when they would have settled. So this is probably their seigneur, it was their seigneur. These maps are an amazing way of looking at how the seigneury was laid out. One of the principal people who founded this place and was a true pioneer and has nothing to do with her story, but I love telling the story, and if this is your descendancy, you can be very proud. His name was Guillaume Couture, which of course is not, who we're talking about, but he was the true founder of Lausanne, as he was the first inhabitant. He was originally a Jesuit, and he was an extraordinary man who at one point in his life said, I need to leave the priesthood. He was working with the Indians and doing so many things. He had many jobs, but he decided he wanted to settle down and marry, which he did. The story of Lausanne would not be what it is without this man. And knowing that he was there when our people are there makes it even more special. And some of the founding families of Lausanne that I have as a list here, I'm just going to read them out, are names like Bissot, Carrier, Brulotte, Guy, Berger, Huard, and Berger. And obviously, Courtois. And speaking of names, when you're looking for Lausanne, I want you to read these captions. This is what it's known as in different times and different places. Cap de Lévis, Côte de Lausanne, Saint-Joseph de la Pointe-Lévis, Saint-Joseph de Lévis, Point-Lévis, and Point-Levi, the last being an anglicized version of it. So you can begin to see how it, you know, it was. And when you're doing genealogy, don't forget the name arose by any other name. So just always remember, alternate. It doesn't have to exactly match. That's why maps are so important. And then I've clipped the 1681 census for y'all. Charles Courtois was 44. Marguerite was his wife, 30, so there's a 14-year age spread there. We have a son named Gabriel, Denis 7, Elizabeth 1 gun, 1 cow, and 10 arpents valeurs, which is about 8 to 9 acres of land. So let's have a look at the family they create. So we look at the family that they created. We have Joseph. Their firstborn died in infancy. Gabrielle, which is my direct ancestor, would go on to have 10 children, 8 of whom would make it to adulthood. We have Denis, who would have 6 children, but all I've been able to document is that he had 6 children, all of whom made it, but only one who produced descendants. So and her name was Marie-Joseph, who married Ignace Guy. So if you are descendant from Denis, would love to find out, more information. But that's all I could come up with. Elizabeth would die just after the census in 1681. I have her listed as being born in 1676. On the census, they have her down as 1 year of age. But Marie Charlotte did not make it to the census, and neither did Louis, who died at birth. So that is a very small amount of children. So Charles would die suddenly at the relatively young age of 50. He and Marguerite would have been married almost 24 years. Charles died at the Hôtel Dieu Hospital and was buried at the hospital's cemetery. In the process of my research, I was able to find this incredible document. It's called a Daily Journal, Le Registre Journalier des Malades de l'Hôtel Dieu de Québec. It's just phenomenal resource. I've listed the PDF for you to have a look at so you can download it. And it basically, and I cut open there, it says 1694, April the 1st, Courtois, décédé, died the 8th of April. That's all I have. I don't have a death record or a burial record, but that's where he would have been buried. Now, Marguerite lived alone until 1704, when she did sign a marriage contract with a man named Claude Dubreuil. The marriage never took place. I'm fairly confident that Marguerite did not need to marry and had enough resources to take care of herself. She would eventually pass away at the age of 77, a remarkable age to have achieved. And so we have the death record for Marguerite, who died November 19th, 1728, and that's where she would have passed away at the church in Lausanne, in the cemetery in Lausanne. So these are the resources I always like to recommend. I've posted the addresses and the links for you all. La Société des Filles du Roi, the Quebec Genealogical E-Society, which has a lot of resources currently in terms of, I think they have MyHeritage and things like that. Check it out. Nos Origines, again, is free of charge. We have Généalogie Québec, which I always talk about as being my version of Ancestry.com. We have Migration, which is everything you ever wanted to know about Les Filles du Roi. It is a free site, but I do donate to it through PayPal monthly, just to help them out. Facebook, Filles du Roi Descendants, wonderful site. If you're into Facebook, this is definitely a kind and generous community for you to have a look at. And so we end our episode 126 of Marguerite Berger. Now, what's interesting to me is the fact that as of 1729, they only had 20 descendants, okay? Somehow, through all of that, and obviously Gabrielle and Denis being the only ones who survived, were then their children and their children kept the line going, because here I am. And I am sure there are some, and I was fascinated to actually do this one, because I thought there must be other descendants of Marguerite Berger, and I'll be fascinated to know, because it really is a personal thing for me. So I thank Marguerite for her sacrifice, for her stamina, She endured a life not only, alone for a long period of time, but she lived to be a remarkable age of 77. And I thank her for her sacrifice and her contribution to not only North America and Quebec, but to me. So with that being said, I'll see you in episode 127. Until then, au revoir.